going up against a very unconventional team, very unorthodox, on a very tricky map. This could be a bit of a challenge, right, Buck?
I mean, yeah, this could be quite difficult, and I'm not really sure how they're going to approach the map. It does look like we're going to see that dual duelist coming out from Code7.
It's a very scary lineup. It is going to be Code7 attacking first. I love the Omen pick on this map in particular, and most importantly, there is going to be a Sage on Immortals lineup. Kind of necessary, I feel. We can talk a bit more about Sageless comps as they go, but for the most part, on Split, you really don't want to be doing that. And so far, it's a relatively slow start. Team's taking it really careful because when you're playing with Split Mid, you really need to give it a lot of space and a lot of respect.
We'll finally see some action kicking off here as the first kill will finally come through. That was Asuna there playing the Raze. No surprise there. Rob Wiz on the Jet moving back over towards this A site where they're going to make contact with Gangsta, who is locking down the ramp. There's the Molly coming in as well. Foe going to drop down the Brim Kohler on the site. So it will be a quick retake. You can see that brand new knife already equipped here by multiple players. Heavily investing in that new skin set. Can't blame them. It is quite beautiful. You've got the Cypher now working in through the screens. The man with the cam, ironic to be coming through this section with a little bit of extra display. Thief trying to work in. Nice shot on the Payan, but there's Rob Wiz waiting around the corner. The Classic, though, going for a reload. Sumhill still hits the shot onto Asuna, and it's going to be down to one. It's Bjor, the Sage, trying to retake on the site. The spike ticking lower and lower. There's two right around the corner, but just going to run low on the magazine. It will be the first round going the way of Code7.
Really good play from Rob Wiz. You know, you have to be careful as soon as you get that plant down that you don't just sort of sit back, especially on the A site. You don't want to just plant it down and go, all right, cool, we've done our job. We can just sit back here, because you're allowing TSM to sort of take up all of that space away from you. So it was good from Rob Wiz to poke ahead, catch the guys out on Immortals, sorry, not TSM, and they weren't expecting it. You got a double kill and did enough damage to put it into a nice 1 versus 2 right at the beginning. And this is Thief. This is the latest play to be added into the Immortals lineup, and I'm a Cypher player, so I'm very much wanting to see as much of him as possible.
As a Cypher main myself, I knew you were a smart guy coming into this one.
Mad of culture.
Cypher, just number one. I like the aggressive cam placement here on the B site. I always love to see a Cypher try and push that issue a little bit further forwards instead of just sitting back on his haunches. You do have Sage currently sitting in the mailroom. The attacking side obviously has the investment. Look at that skin. It's just ridiculous. The frenzy alive and well over in the mailroom. But here's that Cypher on B about to be tested in just a moment. You've got a couple of bodies building up. They send out the Satchel to pop any tripwires that are down. You can see the Raze is actually supporting here as well. They've got a lot of presence towards mid right now with the Cypher lurking on A. If the Cypher can get the pick on this Phoenix who's trying to put kind of some feelers out over on A, that could be a bit of a problem, especially with the whole team moving over. So they've baited them off the A site, and this is going to be a full-blown A push right into the lone defender in Gangsta.
The longer they take, the more that we're starting to see Asuna rotate around. He's already on the heaven high ground on A. Gangsta's going to run into multiple people, but the spray down on the Stinger is good from Payan. This is slowed right down. You can see that Immortals are better prepared for this. The dash isn't good, though, as Rob Wiz is just going to, again, push on ahead. They're clearing the site. There's still more people on Immortals to deal with, but Thief snuck in.
Yeah, unfortunately, nothing going to be stolen by Thief this time around, despite the sneak in. I was told by Foe ahead of time that there could be some aggressive Stinger play. Expect to see it. And he said, you'll probably make fun of the cheese, but it works out well for us. And there was a great example. They go heavy on the Stinger investment in the second round, and they just shred apart the defense. Again, this is still by far the most defensive-heavy map in the rotation. So if we can see Code7 get off to a nice string here, maybe pick up the first 4, if they can win this round here, that'd be huge.
It's super important to just get off the mark sometime on attack. But look, it's all Stingers across, going up against an operator for Asuna. So this is a real change of game, but Asuna misses the first shot, has the new knife too. But he's forced to back away completely to the point that he's going to the A site. It is leaving mid rather open, but it's the B site that's looking to be hit. Thief is going to hold it down as much as possible. His aggressive dashes in from Rob Wiz are actually working super well with the Stinger. And it seems that a plant spike is going to go in eventually, but Jolu getting double means that he's delaying it even more. And they seem to be a bit trapped on the low ground of B.
Yeah, I mean, you knew coming into this that this was going to be difficult, but you would have hoped for at least a little bit more success. They do have a Phantom and a Stinger equipped in the 2-on-4. The Ray is going to send out what they've got. The Bomb Buddy is present as well, so they'll send out that Boom Bot heading towards the backside of site. Good damage coming out. Foe has to go to the sidearm. It's not enough. The fact that they do find 3 kills, though, on the round is actually huge because you're almost expecting to lose that round coming into it. You know you've only got SMGs. You know they're going to be upgrading with rifles. So impacting the econ in the long run is really big on that attacking side. That 3rd round can be so punishing if you're the team that wins the first 2. But because they survive with so many bodies in that 2nd round, the buy coming in here should be fine.
Should be. It was a bonus round, really. There's nothing more to say too much. They did a bit of damage and it got the plant in, so that's an extra bit of money. So you can only really hope for so much. But now this one is going to be really important if we want to see Code7 continuing with that momentum that they built up quite early on. I think Immortals need to maybe give them a bit more respect, I suppose. Certainly Rob Wiz, who was just holding W and dashing into people with stingers, but now, as we start to get out of the early game, stuff is gradually going to change, with a lot of pressure on mid from the attackers of Code7. Again, Rob Wiz starting off with the pick onto Piolu.
That wonderful jet ult as the knives come out. They go for the swing, and they do pick off one, but in response, you've got Foe stuck in the corner. Excuse me, it was actually the ult getting pumped by the Phoenix, so no kill coming in. They run it back, obviously keeping him alive still. Cypher, again, getting aggressive currently in B main. Rob Wiz has the knives back out again, looking to do some extra damage on the round. It is at a 4-on-4, and they also have the showstopper, the Raze ult, the rocket could open things up, and it looks like the team is going to be grouping up back towards the A site, where there's still 2 players in the same position. You've got Phoenix and Brim both on ramp, both there ready for the trade, should it be necessary.
Seems that this is going to be the site that's hit. The Omen really needs to set it up as much as possible with some strong smokes. But the Phoenix's position here is really nice on this defense. It's going to catch them out completely. I wonder if he's actually going to even need to flash it, but he gets one and actually gets the ult in Rob Wiz, stringing together more, and Gangster. Perfect placement, like I said, and he just drums them all down and the scores are tied.
Solid hold by Gangsta as the Phoenix. That's a bit of a difficult round, but at the same point in time, the money is still kind of there. You can see Nick and Torque, the players who have played together for pretty much their entire professional career across multiple games, they're still able to buy. There's only one player on the side of Code7 that can't afford a full buy. That's paying, and again, what else is he going to go do? He goes ahead and picks up the Stinger, it looks like. Actually may have sold it, as it's not appearing in his menu. Yeah, ended up selling it. So for a second, we saw it come out. There's the peak, though. Rob Wiz with the blind shot. Actually, it was almost the collateral. The Brim's down on 1 HP, has to run back to spawn to get the heal, which means the site is completely lost, and it is Code7's to control.
You can see the Code7 are well aware of this. They're going to push on ahead. It even forces out the Resurrect to bring back the Phoenix. Foe is a nice spot here, as he knows that there's going to be multiple there. Even dedicates a showstopper, but catches nobody. There were so many targets there that he could have got a connection with if he was just a bit more patient. But what it is doing is it's delaying time. He's just keeping an eye on this angle, tries to get a collateral with those shots too, but Joe is going to take that out easily as soon as putting pressure towards screens, and enough that he's actually able to get the frag on, and there's only 2 people left on this attack.
Yeah, the Jet, unfortunately, having to keep their head on a swivel. Rob Wiz lost his teammate, so it pretty much all fell apart from there. Needed to see a little bit more from Foe there, playing the Raze. Kind of an interesting pick in my mind. You know, Foe plays pretty much whatever. He will call himself the flex player on the team. Usually goes more towards Reyna, maybe towards Omen. Sometimes you'll see the Raze pick up as well. He's probably got the most flexible agent pool of everyone on that roster. Would have hoped to see just a little bit more damage dealt there from that close ramp position. They got so much sight control off that shot from Rob Wiz. Should have been a collateral, and I know that a lot of players have actually dealt with a similar thing. 149-1 after a shot goes through an opponent with the op. It's a little bit disappointing and frustrating at times, but it's the way the thing goes. Asuna just waiting here back behind that smoke as it pops. Rob Wiz walks out just a little too soon, and it'll be an early man advantage here for Immortals.
Nice play to completely change up the position and forces out another smoke from the Omen. That's going to be Nicholas. So he thinks that there's an operator over there and has actually teleported in there. So he knows that the coast is relatively clear. As soon as not quite aware that the Omen is pushed on through, but might hazard a guess. But if he could get this pick here, he has control of the spike. We'll see it drop. And that's going to be huge for this team. It's just a case of patient play. Right now, Code7 aren't going to dedicate too hard or too fast considering the guns that they have. So it's maybe catching people out on the rotation. And the Resurrect dedicated early to bring back Robwiz means that these attackers are very much going for this. It's a big ult dedication for rounds where they don't have a lot of guns.
Asuna currently trying to lock down Heaven. Nice paranoia coming out from Omen. That pushes him back far. Not only that, that gifts Robwiz, the operator. Kohler's trying to hold it down. And there's the jump peek from Robwiz, feeling oh so confident. What is this?
Just dunked him.
Just going for it. Robwiz will get taken down as Thief is still on the site, and he's trying to steal the round away from Code7 as they had that site control. Great flash coming out as well from the Phoenix, who peeks out wide, and it's down to a one-on-one. The run it back, though, was popped, and there's only 12 seconds left. We need to see a dedicated plant here from Torque, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So now it comes down to this. Gangsta versus Torque in the one-on-one, operator in the hands of the Sage.
He doesn't have a flash, so he's stuck around this corner, just has to dry peek it, but Torque is just backing off. It's smart play. Surely there would have been some rifles there to pick up just to make this a bit easier, but Gangster only has the Blaze, so could maybe conceal it, try and cover it across CT, but he's not quite sure where it is, so this is a lot of time being wasted just from the Sage being backed off a little bit. There it is, there's the plays, just to sort of blank it off a little bit, and Torque's vision isn't good. Might need to wallbang it, it just gets the shot in. Thrifty from Code7. This Stinger meta that they're setting up is beautiful, Buck.
One of the things that I've seen from Jets in just kind of like mild casual play, ranked play. I'm not like exactly a Valorant ranked player, or Radiant, excuse me, I forgot that they changed it. Yeah, you know, I'm on my grind. But Jets with like a Stinger or a shotgun can be oh so brutal to deal with. They can dash into an aggressive position and just totally catch you off guard. You'll see them do it especially a lot on Split, dashing across a ramp to get up towards Heaven. You'll see that a lot to just try and take close range engagements. And that's what they've been doing with that Stinger in the hands of Robwiz when necessary. And in that instance, Robwiz gets to upgrade to an op, gets super aggressive. The round almost falls apart, though, because of Thief's individual hero play on the B site, but they were able to bring it back around in the 1v1 due to strong positioning coming in from the Sage. There's a hot hands coming down from Gangsta to try and delay the push over on A, but it's not going to stop them at all as they continue to push forwards. We've got Bjor in mid, who's sitting in vents right now, and the wall's been dropped. Here we go, the first peek. Robwiz just too quick with the operator.
It was a nice peek. It was a nice try, I suppose, for the position of being on top of the box, but it's not good enough. Again, Gangster on this site is doing quite a lot of work. Dedicates the orbital strike at the defense. It doesn't quite catch anything. Nicholas has even made it onto the high ground where the majority of this defensive Immortals is. Meanwhile, Robwiz is still doing Robwiz things, so he's having a grand old time clearing off towards CT. And gradually, Immortals are starting to dip when it comes to their numbers. A lot of pressure coming in from behind the site now as Collar's going to be leading the line with Bjor. And this is going to be tricky for the defenders to try and retake this. Nicholas' position is good, but Cole's headshot even better.
Rob misses that shot and now is in a dangerous position. Goes for the knives. Actually ends up converting on one before falling. Foe. Oh, I love the play. But the smoke just doesn't last long enough. Tries to sneak into it, and literally as he gets there, smoke disappears. So it will be a round, but it's a hard-fought round coming in for Immortals. And again, the money is going to be a problem in the long term. As we continue to see these close rounds, Code7 is going to have them on that instant breaking point where they can potentially put them on eco almost immediately. And as long as they can keep going back and forth the way that they are, they'll still pile up a fair bit of rounds on the attacking side of the most defensive-sided map in the rotation.
Right, exactly. You say it there. Like, both teams are trading rounds, and I think ultimately that works in favor of Code7 just because, you know, it feels like bonus rounds. A lot of people say, you know, if you're attacking and your score is 8-4 and you're the 4 before you go to defense, that's pretty strong. That's pretty good. I don't necessarily know if I agree, but it just goes to show how people really consider how defensive oriented this map is. I think it's a lot better since we've seen, like, the changes onto mid especially, but like, Immortals are kind of on the back foot here, and Code7 are throwing a lot of interesting plays at them. And it's super fascinating to see how they deal with it. In some cases, really well. In some others, not so much.
I love this. Pan and Foe have actually made it past ramp using that cyber cage. They're going to be sneaking into spawn. They've got this position held down. You can see they think that maybe they could be here, but by not pushing, they keep this defensive side of Immortals guessing, wondering if they've actually moved into this position or not. What they're waiting for is for the rest of the team to start working their way back towards A. So you can see Rob Wiz, the Jet, already getting towards ramp. You've got 2 more coming through from spawn, and now they're going to start looking on the backside, but if they didn't wait long enough, unfortunately the play falls apart. Gangsta was too woke, too aware, and now it's up to the remaining 3.
Fortunately, Kohler can't replicate the rest of this defense, really. Rob Wiz is starting to push it aggressively. Gangster only able to do so much. No more flashes yet again, so might just have to dry peek this if careful. The plant is going to come in, as we see the neural theft used to give up their position. And this is great for Immortals, because everybody's on site. There's not a lot of space to work with, and that's why Rob Wiz is trying to get away from the site as much as possible to try and catch out their positioning. They won't have any idea that he's moved this quickly.
I love that move from Asuna, using that to get into the backside of elbow. It didn't necessarily work for the Rays, but obviously there was a quick trade coming out due to that low magazine on the Stinger, spending most of its bullets at the wall trying to trace the target. It's a 5th round coming in again here. It's Immortals on top. 2 players do fall, and it wasn't really a super big investment coming into the round from Code7. We talked about it early on. They love the Stingers. They keep going back to them in a lot of these situations, but it doesn't seem to be hurting their money in the long term.
Not at all, really. And they have so much aggressive utility that they can use with the Omen and the Rays that in some cases it doesn't really even matter what guns that you have. You have the Bladestorm with the Jet as the ultimate. It's just another example where they can just sort of pull out something from near enough nothing. But this is a big money buy. Rob Wiz has the up yet again. New Elder Flame skin, of course. And he's tried to scout out as much as possible. Gangster's been such an anchor on this site. It's been really difficult for them to deal with. So they're going, you know, all hell's blazing onto this site with Kohler on the high ground. It's going to spot so much with the Suda as well with the operator, but it's Rob Wiz that gets first blood onto the Brimstone, so no defensive smokes. And Gangster even dedicating that, the showstopper from Foe from distance, enough to clear this off, and Immortals are kind of scattered if you look at the minimap.
Yeah, this is a little awkward right now for the attacking side. Everyone currently grouped up on ramp. They do have a 2-player advantage. And there is the res available as well. It's in play here for Code7, so this could be a big round. Bior starting to back off, starting to wonder if they're still here. Patience is a virtue, the name of the game currently. As they go for the recommit after initially pausing on the play, you still got to deal with Gangsta in sight, who's right around the corner playing this Phoenix, and he's been lights out thus far. First shot, though, not where it needs to be, so no kill coming out early there for the Phoenix, and the round falls apart. It's all up to Thief, and at this point, Thief is probably looking for an exit to try and escape and save that gun. So there it is. You see the op pickup there by Thief, and he'll be running away. It's a 4th round coming in here for Code7, and again, the money is not stellar right now for the side of Immortals. So you can even see him going back and picking up his tripwires. Obviously, he wants to save as much cash as possible, but that's the reason we're in this save scenario to begin with.
He's on a budget. You can't really blame him. I really like the position from Gangster, what he's been doing on the Phoenix, just that really aggressive off angle. Didn't quite work as well on the defense just then because positioning and movement was kind of awkward for him to get the spray transfer there, and he went into a 1 versus 2. But it's just all of these sort of movements, I suppose, that Immortals are trying to have to pull out. Like, there's some pretty 5-head plays coming out, it feels like. But Code7 is just making it super awkward on an awkward enough map, might I add. Thief is now surrounded. Can he keep the operator? He misses the shot to Nicholas, and that's a big blow.
Yeah, losing that one is definitely going to sting. We'll see how it affects the buy coming into the next round, but you really shouldn't see too much of an investment. Yeah, there you go. You've got this mix mash of cash, but they do decide to go for a late purchase, and it's going to actually be a double op. So you can see how that would have changed things potentially, as Thief would have had an op, could have either kept it or dropped it and received a Vandal or a Phantom in exchange, could have rounded out the buy a little bit better. So they're going pretty heavy on the investment. I think part of that is understanding the situation that they're in. Yeah, it's early. Kind of. It's the 10th round. You're at 5-4. You don't want to surrender that 5th round because, again, this is super defensive-sided. So they go for the investment. The problem is if they do lose it, then they're even in a worse position because they're staring at 5-5 with a guaranteed save to follow this. I mean, you're pretty much surrendering the lead if you lose this round.
And it's the fact that they're pushing A so aggressively. It opens up quite nicely, but Cole is trying to bring up the aggressive orbital strike. It does get through. He dies for the process, but unfortunately everybody's moved on past that. It's just now going to be Thief on this defense to try and fight up against the 3 surviving members of Code7. And I was going to be kind of critical of the fact that they just seem to be running A. They're not doing any splits, not trying to bait towards B like they did very early on in the game. But, I mean, you can't really knock it, Bot, because it's working super well for this attacking team of Code7.
And that's the round we were just talking about, that punishing round, how that would hurt currently for Immortals. Like, it's a kind of catch-22 situation. Either you don't buy and you give up the round and you put yourself at a tie score, or you try to force up, try to get yourself back into a leading position, but it doesn't work out so well. So now the buy coming in should be somewhat terrible for the defense. You can see the Judge being equipped by the Sage. In the right position, the Judge can be quite powerful, but look at this, an A stack. I like the fact that they're at least thinking about putting their guns all in the one spot. So they're trying to just surround each other with some support, but it does look like we're probably going to see some B presence here in a moment, with Rob Wiz being the tip of that spear. And at that point, they're just going to wander in, realize it's free, and it's going to be a round going the way of Code7.
I mean, it makes sense why Immortals are playing this way with how much we've seen A being executed on rather aggressively, but now it's all exposed. As soon as going to poke around this corner and see absolutely diddly squat, but B is going to be hit. It's only going to be Bjord that's even nearby to hear it, but here's the smoke, and it's going to turn, and this is going to be a deep rotation. I think Code7 are now aware just how empty the site is, so the plant is going to go in. Let's see how much space they can take. If they could get towards CT around the back of this site, or even just sort of put a few more people into B main like they are doing currently, they're anchoring themselves really nicely for this retake, and it's going to be an absolute pain in the backside for Immortals to clear everybody out in a 5v5. There are a few ultimates available, but Rob Wiz is just going to stay with the operator, try and get a shot in, but the flash is going to scare him away a little.
Oh, that Molly is also a bit of a problem. So they've gotten down into hell, and they've actually managed to pick one off. You've still got Torque sitting on default. The shotgun doesn't even get a chance to fire. There's Gangsta with the Frenzy, a heal coming out onto the Omen. It's all up to Gangsta as the Phoenix. The fact that they actually get 2 kills out of that is somewhat surprising, given the amount of time they had to set up the post plant. But they didn't really go too aggressive, pushing in towards spawn or trying to get towards hell. They kind of stayed back, positioning more towards B main, like you mentioned. Coming into the final round of the first half, we should see a full buy coming out from Immortals, but they've got the 4 ults on both sides. So we're going to see a lot thrown out on the board from both teams. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Sure, it's super close. And I think it's worth adding too, because we have new changes to the overtime system. For the round-robin group stage, it's going to be the same as it is usually. You know, when it's 12 all, it's first to 13, it's just that one round. But when we get into the playoffs and stuff, that's when we're going to see the new mode for sort of stoppage time, overtime moment, because Rob Wiz is actually going to push in now, gets a lot of damage done, and even the showstopper's dedicated catches absolutely nothing. That must be like the 3rd one that we've seen from Foe that gets diddly squat.
There's the neural theft coming out. That showstopper can be so difficult because it's so easy to read and so easy to escape. Camera's down, that gives away the position of the Cypher. That means the Molly's going to be right on the money. Doesn't matter. Payne wide swings, catches Kohler off guard. Here's the other showstopper coming out. This time it's successful. Rez coming through as well, but it's a bait Rez. 7 rounds for Code7 on the attacking side of Split. That is absolutely fantastic. A great first half coming in from them.
Ideal, really. And considering they have the Cypher, sometimes you see teams, when they're attacking first, they drop the Cypher to play a bit more aggressively, just hope that they have the point advantage by the time they go into the defense. But when you look at the roster for Code7 now, you kind of look at it and go, actually, this should be pretty good on defense too. You have the Cypher anchor in B, as you always do, but the presence of a Jet and a Raze and an Omen being anywhere on the map, I can sort of guess that Code7 are going to switch up the positioning here. This is a great book, but it's a nice little 1v1 you can see between the 2 carry players, Gangster versus Rob Wiz, and it's the Jet coming out on top. We don't see a lot of Phoenix in EU, where I typically spend my time watching the games, but I've got to say, the way that NA plays Phoenix, like Drone, for example, with TSM, is definitely something to behold, and I want to see more of it.
Pan goes for the peek, spots him. There's the one-way. We've seen that one-way before, but the flames go down and he dies almost instantly, evaporating inside the hot hands. Torque at least able to punish with the trade onto the Phoenix that sent his comrade to the sidelines, but the site's been lost. There's still plenty of utility here. As you can see, the Brim calling in the smokes. The wall starting to break. Foe actually taking significant damage. They're going to require a heal from Torque, but the retake is underway.
Set up quite nicely, the majority of the defense coming from heaven, but look at his flank from Robwiz that might catch off people. Nobody's guarding that spot, and Torque is able to get some damage in. Can only do so much, gets traded, and the position for Cole is good. Robwiz is making his way around to do as much as possible. Colston gets the majority of the damage done and puts TSM, I keep getting TSM and Immortals mixed up. I don't know why. I think it's just because I'm so excited to see both these teams play today that I'm just culminating them both together. A lot of people asking in chat, where is TSM? Are we going to see them? The game after this, I do believe we're going to watch TSM versus Echo 8, right? So that should be another game similar to this. A well-known, established team that looks pretty good going up against an up-and-coming team that could easily catch them out. The scene is young, and there's a lot more Valorant to be played before we really understand who are the better teams in the world. But I think TSM has a head start over a lot of people. We will see them a bit later on.
I like this aggressive play. The nade actually doing really heavy damage to his teammate as Robwiz dashed right into it. Robwiz in spawn. Here's his teammate fall in the sewers. Here's those footsteps in the water splashing around. Rob's still in spawn, and they know it. So you see Asuna currently watching for the push to come through. Rob, though, is just going to hold. Now the spike's been planted. We should see a peek in a moment, and we'll likely see his demise as well. Again, it's just Robwiz versus Gangsta, one-on-one. He's cloned himself.
I would love a 1v1 mode in this game, like the Counter-Strike workshop modes you can get. I really like those. I'm not very good at them, but I enjoy the idea of them. But it is a bit of a stalemate here. The spike has been planted, and the defenders can only do so much. But look at the space that Immortals have taken up. Robwiz, again, going for this mad flank, but it's a bit too little too late. Going for exit frags more than anything is likely to catch off Asuna, who spots the sound of multiple people. But can he deal with this 2-3-1 peak as it's spread out? He can, but the rest of the team is going to avenge him.
Well, that flash could have cost them so much more. The spike also barely... No. They almost all got taken out by the spike. That detonation ring came very close to where they were fighting. Had we seen them survive a little while longer with the rifles there, there's a possible chance another one does fall. Yeah, Bjor does go down to the spike in the end. But still, I like the play. I like the setup, understanding that there was no way they're getting back into that one with classics. They just set themselves up for exits. We'll see what they decide to do, though, as we come into this first full bye. We talked about this in the first half. This round can be the punishing round when you're on the side of the team that won the first two, because this third round does dangerous things to your money. On top of the wall early is Foe, and he has to back off as the nade goes down to do some additional damage. They break the ice right away. No surprise there.
And that's not too bad if you're Immortals, because you baited out so much key utility a little bit more there as Torque is throwing out the slow orb, only has the one left, so really they could just put a bit more pressure on mid, force out a lot more. That smoke might just do that, but Torque isn't buying it, it's just going to spray in. But I like the positioning of the Omen on this defense. I like where Nicholas has placed himself. He's trying to catch if anybody goes for the rotate. It's almost a bit of a bait. Like, go through the rope room. It's empty. You know, go on to A. That's a great play. But now Nicholas is just sat here nesting, waiting. Typical Omen player just lurking in an awkward spot. Let's see if Gangster is going to be aware of it. We might have a bit of a stalemate. We might be here for the rest of the round, but I've got to see how that one plays out. It looks like Gangster is going to back off a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of was wondering how this would change if Gangsta had the hot hands. The problem is they're actually going to be executing towards A. Rob's going to call it out. If Rob goes for a peek here, it could be quite problematic. I like this play currently, though, from Gangsta. He's going to lurk this one out big time. So there's the Omen going up the ropes, trying to come through with the support. Robwiz dies in the meantime, so they've lost that site control. Damage being dealt through, and now the flank starts to come in. You've got this Phoenix working down the ropes slowly. Paranoia pop. Sage, slow orb coming down on ramp. Again, the Phoenix is just buying time right now, waiting for the team to do their due diligence. Gangsta has the perfect flank, has them trapped in. He can make the call. Hey, guys, they're mostly in heaven. There's a lot of presence there currently. Gangsta now starts to come up, and here's the peek. 1, doesn't take the fight with the Sage. There's the peek through, doesn't make a difference. Nicholas is there with the trade out, but they're going to have to try and back off and save their weapons as Immortals has more than enough on the site to defend. An 8th round for Immortals as they take this lead back with 4 players surviving, no less.
That's what I like to see, just the way that Immortals bided their time there. You were right, the gangster could just come up at any time and frag out like crazy when necessary. But the key thing there was, it wasn't necessary. They planted the spike, they just needed to buy time. And if they knew that Code7 was just going to be on heaven, skulking from side to side, trying to anticipate what to do, a bit antsy on their next play, the gangster's just going to sit there and go, they haven't moved. Just chill, guys. You don't need to fight them. We're buying loads of time. The enemy isn't necessarily us in that situation. It's the clock. It's the spike deploying. So, nice, patient, disciplined play. They're not going too frag heavy, but the way that Immortals are taking space on this attack after that plant goes in is sublime. They take full control of the split map, and it's so difficult for Code7 to get in edgeways.
Again, Code7 goes with the gamble, and they stack the B site. This is what we saw from Immortals in that first half. There's a double swing, and I like that, but that's going to be the read. Hey, they've gone pretty heavy towards B. Why don't we rotate out and go A, where there's only one player currently playing defense, and that's the Omen, who's currently up in heaven and actually going towards ropes.
Moving away.
So, yeah, if anything, the site just became easier to take.
It's always funny to watch attacking teams when they're moving onto a site where nobody's there and just see how nervous they are. Because obviously, there's nobody here. You don't need to worry. There we go. Thief is a bit more well aware that the site is clear up. And yet again, let's see if Immortals try and take much space. They're not just going to sit on the site. You can see exactly where Cole is positioned, and it catches Nicholas out. This is where you start to see this really solid Valorant, where you don't quite see it with Code7. At least not at the same level, I suppose it would be. But Pure's positioning here might catch a few people off, and yet again, Code7 just aren't sure how to approach this.
Pure sitting up on top of the wall, peeking up over the tall box. Rob Wiz, again, I mean, he's done this time and time again, but Rob's going to back off. They kind of stole this weapon away, the Phantom that was picked up off the body of that player that died over in B. So he'll be backing off and saving this weapon to bring it into the next round. It will be 9 now on the scoreboard for Immortals. As strong as that first half was for Code7 on the attack, it's looking dangerous right now as Immortals is swinging pretty hard on their attacking side. This is a big round for them, though. Not only do they want to win this to prevent that double-digit 10th round from coming on the board, but they're going to go heavy on the investment. You're going to see that operator purchase for Rob Wiz, and I think that's going to be pivotal because we saw in the past just how big that op could be when put in the hands of Rob Wiz.
I think both Asuna and Rob Wiz have been great with the operator. I think it's more of a staple meta part of the composition. I feel the operator in NA, most certainly to EU. Double operator is very much a thing over here, and the Sageless comps that we have seen a few teams play is because of how strong operators can be. We see that Rob Wiz has his weapon of choice in his hands, only has to deal with beef on the attack. The majority of pressure is going to be put to A. Yet again, the wall used early. I'm not necessarily a fan of that just because it's so expensive. It's such a core piece of utility. And just like that, it's gone. And Gangster's going to be on the prowl, push up ahead. Let's see actually how the defense reacts to this. It's mostly just getting out of there as much as possible. Gangster can get nothing done with the ult. No information, no kills, nothing.
Again, you see this like bait setup that we've seen in the past. The problem is he's done this a couple times and it hasn't really worked out. The timing hasn't been super ideal. And you also have like dual molly. So if he takes down the first player, they can molly him out of position. Oh, he's so patient. Oh, there it is. 1, 2. The shots vertically work out. The spike's been taken down. That's the play we've been wanting to see from Nicholas, who's been baiting that out every single round, and it finally pays off. Now, the spike will be picked up by Asuna here, and the Cypher is going to be going back through sewers to try and regroup towards heaven, but the damage has been dealt by the Omen.
Nicholas is going to be so happy considering he wanted to use that play for like a couple of rounds already, right? Asuna's still going to get some damage here, but isn't quite sure about the lurking play that's coming in. Talk's position giving up, but Foe right around the corner is able to get those frags in. All because of Nicholas. I think right now Code7 need those like 200 IQ plays, and it came at the right time. Perfectly placed for the Omen. And an important round, I suppose, for Code7 to win. They have a few aggressive ultimates to use. I want to see if Rob Wiz is just going to run at them yet again with the Blade Storm to try and catch people off. But considering he still has that operator, might just want to sit on the back foot a little bit, play a bit more passively to watch that angle from screens on the A site. They have a Resurrect, so this isn't, you know, out of the woods just yet for Code7. It's not done and dusted. They still have a chance to pull this away from Immortals. Immortals still having decent money enough to buy these Phantoms, have a few aggressive ultimates, like the Orbital Strike and the Showstopper. Let's see what they can do with it.
That Orbital Strike could end up being quite pivotal if they're able to get site control. Same with the Showstopper. We'll see what ends up happening here as they lay down the smokes to try to push up in mid. Again, no vent presence. So we mentioned this. Code7 plays this map a little bit more unconventional. And that's in general their approach. Going sageless more often than almost any other team currently competing in North America. And intentionally, mind you, it's not an accident. They do it on purpose. Some people see it and they go, oh, did they forget? Did they forget to pick Sage? No, that's just how they play. High cam on the B site currently from the Cypher. Just watching for the exit should they decide to push, playing on the opposite side of that pillar. But you can see it's going to be an A play right now, and Rob Wiz right behind it, just can't quite get the timing right. Was very close. There's the paranoia coming out. It's so powerful. Still blinded is Thief. Just seconds after that does get popped. Now they're going to go ahead and pick up the orb. That'll bring the Sage Wedge back into the fold, so that brings Kohler into the fight. Nice nade coming out. Great damage being dealt. Showstopper being popped here by the attacking side, sending it out towards screens. Plenty of time to get away from it.
Yeah, he had all the time in the world to move away. Even the Orbital Strike not catching where this race is going to be. Pay now using the Neurotheft to catch up where exactly people are going to be. They're all on site. This is good now. Payne using that intel to get some more information, but is going to be the only one alive in this 1 versus 2. No more ultimates available. No more utility for Payne to use. The camera is still set up if he wants to take a peek, but he has to watch all of these angles. Look at the positioning now where Asuna is. You know, use that opportunity nicely, right? I've got a bit of a break. I can move somewhere. Very unconventional. Payne's not going to expect. Does he peek around this corner? He does, but as soon as there to watch it, gets the 3rd kill. And only a few more rounds left for Immortals to try and grab in this best of 1 in order to beat a very tricky Code7.
We've seen some close games from Code7 in the past, but they have a hard time closing those games out. So many opportunities where they had a team up against the ropes, and they just couldn't finish it off. Hopefully that's not the case here, as you love seeing the underdogs come in, a team that maybe not as many people were aware of coming into this event. Some people in chat even calling them boomers, more specifically targeting the likes of Rob Wiz, who's been around the competitive esports scene for a long time, going back to the COD days even, as well as having his time in the limelight there in CSGO for a short period of time. Speaking of the man, Rob Wiz, currently in the back of that B site playing a position we haven't seen yet. There's the swing from the operator, and that'll be Asuna currently watching from the sidelines, and it'll be Immortals who's down 1 player early.
Old versus new right there if you're calling Rob Wiz a boomer. Asuna's only 16, so he's the up-and-coming talent. I imagine would be one of the best players in the world if you're looking at a couple of years' time, just based on how young he is and how good he is at the game already. Nicholas, yet again, loves this pit. Kingster is probably moulding at that spot right now, considering how much Nicholas is punishing. Now FIFA's a lot to do. It was an aggressive peek from Nicholas, but it was a nice trade from Payan to back him up. Ooh. They just staggered their peaks at the wrong time in order to try and save, I suppose, the player as they were coming in. There's just people on this attack now. They're looking to go 8 more than anywhere, but you can see that Immortals aren't quite sure. Code7 have the whole site down, locked up, and it's going to be tricky to sort of push onto it. Never mind get the spike planted and let it deploy. There's the nade coming out. That'll try and push them back just a bit. Satchel coming in to do some additional damage. Foe actually using his Satchel. I think he wanted to go aggro with it, but it doesn't work out. There's the swing. Torque gets the flick back to the target up on top of the balcony. Great defense coming in from Code7. And right when they needed it as well. Would love to take a look at the economy, but obviously right now the scoreboard bug makes that a little bit difficult. But we should see pistols coming out here, or at least a light buy coming in from the attacking side, I'd assume. It's hard to say what their money's actually at. There's always something. It's like a give and a take. We have X-ray, we can see health bars, but now we can only see 2 people in the kill feed. Which is unfortunate, but at least it's the top fraggers, so we know who's winning in these key 1v1s, who's the MVP. Look how close it is between these lineups, and the different ways how they're playing it. Gangster with a rifle, with a Phoenix makes a lot of sense. Jet with the operator makes a lot of sense. It's different playstyles, and Bo, Nice shot onto Cola. Could have got more considering people were there, but it's a connected showstopper, so you could say better than that when it comes to the previous showstoppers that we've seen out of him this game, at least.
They do break that wall, so that'll push the Sage back a bit. Asuna sending a nade out towards Heaven. Got to back off just a bit. Those nades doing serious damage if too close. Now again, they've given up control of vents. This has been their approach time and time again, and you see that they do have the Rays pushed into that position. They're going to be going for this A take, where you've got the Cypher and you've got Omen currently playing defense, but they're both in Heaven. They've got that deep cam placement, though, in screens from Pay, and I love this one. It's up inside the glass area towards screens, so you can actually see into the site, but there's not much you can do to stop that one. Here comes the push, though, towards this A site. They're walking their way through. They're going to have to deal with some equipment being put down by the Cypher.
Looking.
He hears them. He knows they're here. He's just letting them through.
And for the retake, potentially, Asuda's positioning must have been given up, considering the paranoia was just in their general direction. Yet again, we're seeing the skulking thief on the Cypher, pretty much apt for the agent that he's playing. Gets one, but needs to be careful that there's a Sage around that corner too. Storm's going to be used to sort of block them off, and even the wall dedicated just to keep them at bay. The spike has been planted. This is good from Immortals. Code7 on these retakes have looked a bit lost in some cases, not sure where to push in, but Robwiz just glides in, gets one, but can only do so much. The rest of the team, though, is cleaning house. The defuse is coming in. Just as I said they look lost, Robwiz just opens the door and they just go on in.
Yeah, that was a really bizarre defense in general, which I guess is just par for the course for Code7 with the strange ways that they've been approaching the map of Split. But we can't judge them too much because it appears to be working. They're currently tied up with Immortals, who a lot of people would peg as a top 5 team in North America, currently competing in Valorant. Obviously, the recent roster change might have some effect on that, but at the same point in time, I think if anything, it's done them a positive. Thief has been stellar thus far, who's currently, I think, marked as just a stand-in, not actually a full replacement for JC Stanley as of yet.
Right.
But the fact that they just let them up onto the site was just really weird. And again, there's Rob Wiz with the operator, and we can get an idea at least of what we're going to see coming into this round, as Gangsta does have 1,700 and the Phantom in hand. So we know what the money's going to look like for the rest of the team, even though we only see it from one player.
I think the good thing about trading out players for Immortals is because they are just individual players put together to form a team, you know, stats were used, they were tryouts and trials, is that they can switch out players individually, do okay, but I'll hold that thought as the attack is going in rather aggressively with the run it back. The blind actually doesn't go around the curveball doesn't go around the corner, sorry, so it doesn't catch anybody. And right now, we're seeing a pretty good job of Code7 holding onto this site. An aggressive push, not really going too far, but then again, the guns really aren't available too much for Immortals right now. So Nicholas could sit back a little bit, but actually decides to use up the teleport from the shadows and he's right around this corner where Gingston spots him.
It's looking promising right now, as it is a 3-on-2, and you saw Gangsta get that kill. It's Thief on the site, though. We talked about it. His play has been good thus far. Spots out the first one, but doesn't even win that battle against the already lit-up foe, so it will be an 11th round here as Code7 has stolen the lead back, and they'll balance out the ults as well by trading the defuse off to the Rays. That was a really big round, massive implications. I'm not sure what the money's going to look like exactly here with the buy. The bomb plant certainly helping just a little bit there, but not sure how much cash is actually going to be on their side.
There's allowed Code7 the lead here, and I think we kind of predicted it quite nicely, I suppose, where, like, because these maps aren't picked necessarily, it's mostly based when it comes to map picks on bans. And then Team A bans the map, Team B bans the map, and then the map that is played in these best of ones is decided randomly, so all of these teams need to be very careful. Nobody really picks Split, but considering the format and how this is done, you need to be better prepared on maps that you might not necessarily practice as much. So I think both of these teams are dealing with things relatively well, but you would expect Immortals to be, you know, beat them to the punch. They should be the better team. They are the signed ones. They have this setup. They have all of this foundation set up for them to play as well as they possibly can. But Code7 is really making them sweat a little bit. Seems like a lot of pressure is going to be put on mid. Talk, I like this placement with the rope push, but the slow is going to be nicely placed. They aren't quite sure if any more is going to be coming up through, but the flash is dedicated. Yet again, not quite catching anybody, but Asuna with the showstopper gets the kill, and Talk's positioning is nice. He can only get 2 out of the 3 kills, though.
Yeah, but you've still got Rob Wiz here on the site with the operator. They don't anticipate this backup coming in from the Jet. Doesn't expect that peek coming up from Gangsta. So it will come down to the 2-on-2. The neural theft going down to give some intel here for the remaining 2 players of Immortals. You've got Thief and Gangsta on site. Spike's been planted in front of the double stack. Both players coming in through heaven. Will they spot them? There's the paranoia coming out. First one's right on the money for Thief. Thief's going to deliver a few courtesy shots after the fatality comes in off the rifle. We are tied back up at 11 apiece. You know, we talked about those overtime rules and how they might change from group stages into playoffs, and we might get to see it play out in the very first map of the event.
Definitely. Like, I'm interested to see what these fully fleshed out rules do. I'm interested to see how long games get, because, you know, in Counter-Strike, where they have a full overtime system, those games could get relatively long, and considering it's, you know, match round 15, they're pretty long anyway, certainly longer than Valorant, right? So I'm curious to see how much of a bump up it does onto durations of matches. But I think right now both these teams want to avoid that at all costs, don't want to go into overtime. So this round is especially important. Whoever wins it has 1 foot in the door of winning this game. But considering how both these teams have been trading rounds, it's super hard to say who's got this. You've got to say with the ultimates available to Code7, namely the Showstopper, it's a nice way to have the numbers advantage if they can get a frag. Code7 right now taking this very patiently, not over pushing, not rotating too early. They're sitting nicely. Rob Wiz has a nice angle. He was going to spot somebody, but the orbital strike is going to move him away.
There's the ult in the back of sight, but it doesn't scare Rob Wiz at all. He's still here, still going for the peak, a bold one at that, as his teammate had to back off from the site, so that's a bit of a problem. Hot hands coming down towards spawn, but the Sage can exist back behind it. You've already got 2 players coming in through heaven as well. Thief doesn't realize that they're both here, but they don't realize he's here either. The Cypher on Cypher battle goes the way of the defense, but it's currently an advantage coming in for the attacking side. It's a 3-on-2 with the spike ticking down lower and lower. And the remaining 2, one of them's already low. That's the Cypher, who has to come back towards the Sage for a heal, and that might give away a little bit of intel.
And all of that information got by the neural theft is going to be lost. It really seems awkward now, to the point that I think we are going to be seeing Code7 have to save. It would put Immortals on match point. Every little helps in this case. Buy up all of the utility that you can grab. The camera's back in the hands. Oh, sorry, the tripwire's back in the hands. And that was a really good round on this attack. It was patient play. Rob Wiz did quite a lot of damage with a double kill with the operator, but just got trapped, could only do so much. But I love the lurk from Thief onto mid. Could have got so much more done if he could get that spray transfer, but did enough. Code7 are constantly having to look behind them because they're so paranoid about where Immortals could be positioned. But I love a good lurker in roles like this, and Thief, so far for me, has been outstanding on this roster.
There's that cam placement too. You like that? I love that cam coming in from Payan that peeks up in through the glass towards A main. So we make it here, the final round of regulation. What do we see come in from Code7? We mentioned this. So many times they've been in this position. So close, and yet at the same time, so far from picking up those big wins. We talked about it. There was definitely upset potential coming into this series, and you've seen that already as this has gone the full distance. The question is whether or not they have enough to defend here, given what's coming their way. There's the flash coming through. The curveball works out so nicely. Foe trying to lay down some support to get that Sage back in position. Omen is over towards Vents. There's the swing coming in from Foe, who guns down Gangsta. That's a big piece to lose, but the Sage has died actually on the site, so that's a problem as well. There's still support there, but it looks like they're going to be going back towards the A site, where you've only got the Omen. He's here alone, trying to play around this corner. Do they peek this in time? The smoke's going to come down. They're going to be checking towards spawn. No! Nicholas comes up empty-handed. Payan has to save the day. Here he's going to find 1, make it 2, and it's down to a 2-on-2. You've still got Asuna and the Cypher on the site going for the spike plant, but Rob Wiz is alive, and Rob Wiz can be so deadly.
Yeah, he can win this for his team. Try and clutch it out as much as possible. You've got to know that the positioning isn't going to be good for the attackers, as they got the plant despite planted, sorry, so they're not going to be moving off the site. They can really sort of pinch them here, put a lot of pressure onto them. Asuna is going to hold close towards screens, knows that there's somebody there, but Robwiz gets a nice crossfire. It's Asuna that wins that fight. It's just going to be the Raze, goes up against somebody that's so low health, the counterpart, but also has to work out where the Cypher is, trying to fight it, just wallbanging as much as possible, but all of this time being dedicated. There's one, there's the second, we're going to overtime. There should be enough time to get this defuse in. It's got to be a narrow one, but that sums up this game so far, Bok. It's down to the wire.
Who else would you want other than Foe coming in there towards the end with that clutch as well? It works out so nicely for Code7. So now we go to OT, and you mentioned the overtime rules might change throughout the event. The most recent patch introducing, of course, the 2-round rule, but we're not going to be seeing that during the group stages. That's only in playoffs, correct?
That's correct. Like time restrictions, we have so many games to get through, right? So having these long overtimes isn't going to work. But definitely for the playoffs, I would imagine games are going to be as close as this. It would be good if it was sort of in these rounds to have the first game, the proper NA game since this patch went in, to see it in action, you know, because that's going to be like the standard for the future, right? But round 25, 12 all, we knew it was going to be awkward for Immortals on a map like Split, but how awkward, it's hard to say. The economy's reset, 5,000 credits for everybody. Everybody also 4 ult points away from having their ultimates, so there's not going to be any big plays unless there's a few multi-kills here. So Immortals have it all to do on this attack now. Code7 looking pretty good, but I imagine both teams are going to be sweating it right now.
There's the wall up early here as Foe goes over it and wants to peek back towards mid, spots out a lot of players in that territory, decides probably not worth it to stick around for too much longer. The ice has been carved apart, at least for the time being, and again you have Nicholas in the same position we've seen him in before. It's only really paid off once or twice, as the Omen plays very passively in the ropes, but it doesn't stop Immortals from continuing to respect the possibility of a player being there, despite the fact that there almost never has been. He's always been sitting at the bottom of ropes, waiting for the push to come through. 40 seconds now, the clock is ticking down, they need to make a move.
This is really well done from Code7. The wick is burning, like you mentioned, and all of this time just being narrowly wasted. Robwiz has a nice angle onto Heaven and B main, where the spike is, might I add. So he's keeping a close eye. They're giving a lot of space up, but this is the kind of play you get it. Oh, he misses the shot. Robwiz is put under a lot of pressure. He has the dash to get out, but look at this crossfire now. Talk is in a nice spot, but his position given away. That's a good amount of damage done already from Immortals. Foe is on the back foot, gets a frag onto Gangster, is trying to get more, and it's now a 3 versus 2 in favor of Immortals.
They literally had seconds to kill off the clock, and it would have worked out so nicely. It's now down to 1. It's Payan. He's in a 1-on-2 after taking down the first target. Both players locked in the same position. He's got one behind the wall and one right to the right. There's the first shot coming out for Payan! He's gonna pick it up! It's going to be Code7 who walks away victorious off a massive 1v3 clutch.
You couldn't write this. It's the first game that we've seen tonight, and it's already a big upset. One of the big complaints I think about NA as a region has been it's too predictable. It's always the organizations, the sign dogs that win it, but not this time. Code7 coming in clutch. And we did say this is a team to watch. I hope they've